Hey, Tony guys here. I had shot a video and it was in the car driving and it cut off at the end. And a lot of people, I noticed that it's a lot of people that, we all have our opinions. And that's what YouTube is for me. And one of the things that we're talking about right now with the Cassie situation, it's not about me speaking on a woman's trauma. This is bigger than Cassie. It ain't about just what Cassie went through. What we have to realize is that if we don't get the lessons as men and women at a young age, these same things will continue to happen. And one of the things that I notice is that a lot of us are just trying to, a lot of people excusing the fact that Cassie was 19 and not realizing that we have young women today that's 19 that's going to meet rich men, whether that's in a music career, whether that's in the club. And so the lessons still have to be gotten of, if we talking to our sons, if we talking to our daughters, hey, you can't take and not judge a person by their character. And it's not about just Cassie herself, but about making sure that we could prevent more Cassies from happening. And it's not, for me, it's like I tell everybody, I'm not on a man's side, I'm not on a woman's side. What I do is analyze the situation and get a lesson from both sides, and I have to remove myself from my personal feelings. Because my personal feelings, I would bring back, you know, I, my personal feelings, P. Diddy, the punishment that he will go through will be far worse than what we have today. And so when I'm assessing things, I'm trying to assess it from a perspective of, okay, what is a lesson for the young lady who is on my channel that's 17 years old, that's 16 years old? And that lesson is, you have to judge a man by his character, and you can't feel safe with a guy because he holds your career. Because the same thing what P. Diddy did to Cassie, there could be a man who's just a supervisor at a restaurant and he's doing a version of that to a young lady on a much smaller scale. And so if we're not getting the lesson and we just only making it about P. Diddy and Cassie, which if you pay attention when I'm touching on celebrities, I'm teaching on real life lessons. And so the thing about it is it's not gonna always, when you dealing with these type of things, you have to separate from your trauma, your past, your heartbreak, your heartache, and what you went through, and you have to listen to it in a way to where you can take and say, okay, if I have a niece, let me not just not tell her about the things that could happen until she's 25, because she might meet that man. She might meet that man at 13. She might meet that man at 15. It could be her school teacher. It could be this person, that person. And the other thing what you got to realize, the difference with Cassie and the everyday woman is, the women in the industry, I have a lot of clients who are in the industry. They lifestyle, their mindset is totally different. What they go through, what they experience. So even Cassie experience is not your everyday woman experience. Her experience, her goals, her motives, her aspirations, that's totally different than your everyday woman. And so, and we don't know her from a can of paint. We don't know P. Diddy from a can of paint. All we get to do on a situation like this is get a lesson from relationship dynamics and personality differences, and look at the way grooming works and the way that a man could try to set a woman up by using that power dynamic to lure her in, and then how a woman, by wanting to have love and wanting to have a relationship, could end up stuck and going way further than she's ever been. And so the thing about it is, I think it's clear that every human, especially women, want love. But what you have to realize is that if we don't get to a place to where we start to take care of ourselves and protect ourselves and get those lessons, and no one's going to take care of us. So it's a lot of times where we just want the abuser or the person that the offender to be held accountable. But what you have to realize is when somebody is an offender, you can't change those people. So by taking and absolving the victims, whether that's male or female, of all responsibility of decision making, of choices, and all of those things, and just saying, hey, it's understandable, it's okay if you get caught under some type of spell. And that's why I have to turn the comments off, because a lot of people are speaking from their own unhealed pain and trauma instead of listening to the video to learn and to grow, and to go and prepare your daughter, prepare your niece, prepare your son, prepare your cousin, whoever it may be. Because if we just throwing rocks at Sean, because the way I feel about him, I would be in sin to process those thoughts and emotions about what he did. So for me, I try to look at it like, okay, you got to save yourself, because nobody coming to save us. So how can we prepare women who will be subjected to this type of behavior on any level, on any scale? How can we prepare them, and what can they see? What can they pick up on? What can they be mindful of? And it was some women that made some good points about, like, hey, it's everyday women who go through this stuff, not on that level, but like won't leave a man no matter what he do. And we see that all the time. And that's the bigger point here of making sure that we are able to extract the lesson and not just look at it and say, like, that's common sense to know that Sean Combs was the abuser, the aggressor, the groom, and all of that. That's common sense. Like, everybody knows that. Us just piling on that of he's a monster, he's a monster, he's a monster. What's understood ain't got to be explained. But what's the lesson for the women who getting ready to meet a monster? What is those lessons? And that lesson is for one, you got to judge a man by his character. Two, you got to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. From the first time that things start to go awry and it's going in a direction that you didn't plan for, that you don't want to be a part of, you got to be willing to walk away. You got to be willing to go broke. You got to be willing to cut all your losses. You got to be willing to move forward with your life. You got to be willing to do everything in your power. It's better for you to leave this situation and risk it all than to live on your knees. Because not everybody, and it have to be early. You can't give grace and grace and grace and grace when a man or a woman, if it's the other way around, is exhibiting deal breakers. Because not everybody will be graced enough, like Cassie, to live to tell the story. Now, she lived to tell the story, but if we just take no lessons from it, then the next women won't live to tell the story. If we say, hey, no, you had no responsibility. Like when you meet somebody and they got money and they got fame, you ain't got to take no responsibility. Like, cause they smarter than you, they know more than you, they got all this life experience. That was the case with Cassie. But you still got to be able to pull that lesson, because how that happened with Cassie and Sean Combs, the same thing can happen with your daughter and her school teacher, with your daughter and her boss, just on that level. It's not going to involve private jets and all of that, but that same type of thing can happen if you don't get the lesson. And so I had uploaded my other video, but it got cut off and I was in the car driving. And so I didn't get to drive, my point home of this right here, and everything that we see in the media. These things dictate millions of relationships. And so because of what, for example, Cassie went through, there will be women that's saying, hey, I could just hang on a little longer. Like, it's been 5 years, it's been 7 years. Cassie didn't leave until year 10. If she didn't say, hey, I'm finna leave, hey, I'm finna go to rehab, hey, I could just wait it out a little longer, he might change. And it's gonna be women that lose their life because nobody is saying, hey, we gotta teach and we gotta learn and we gotta be prepared before we go in, to know that you might get to a place in that relationship to where you drunk, you high, you stress, you whatever, to where you're not even thinking straight anymore. So what are you gonna do in that moment? Like, be prepared before you go in, and don't just take these situations and feel like, oh, these just celebrity lives. This is just what celebrities going through, but we'll never have to go through anything like that. We'll never be in a power dynamic like that. We'll never be up the creek without a paddle. And pull a lesson from every part of it. And that's one of those things. So it's a lot of people who, looking to speak from their trauma, speak from their pain, feel a certain way about the stuff we see in the media with Shannon Sharpe, with P. Diddy, and you're going to see both sides of it. You're going to hear both sides of it. For me, I try to pull a lesson, even from when someone was a clear victim. I still try to pull a lesson to teach someone who is not yet a victim, who could become a victim if they miss the warning signs and the red flags that the victims in the media that we see missed. But it does us no good if every woman is saying, hey, Cassie played no part in this. Cassie was completely, just totally, she should have never done anything. She had no clue what was going on. She was 19. That was all right there. Now, your women in your family, the daughters, your cousins, they will continue to just move forward and not be aware of the red flags, not see what's happening. They won't see it. Won't see it, won't prepare for it, because we sweep it under the rug of just, oh, there's certain games and certain things that could be said and done that's going to trick you and trip you up, that no matter what you do, you're going to become a victim. And I see that approach, and me being on this side of it and seeing what happens from that, me even working with celebrity women, celebrity men, but then everyday men and women, it don't matter what it is, we have to be able to take the accountability from it and say, okay, this is what I have to be mindful of. Don't be with a person because of this. Don't stay because of this. Don't ignore this. Don't ignore that. And for every person in your relationship, it may be different. And you have to be able to do that. You got to be able to pull from that yourself and be able to assess it and say, okay, what are my rules from what I've experienced, from what I went through, the trauma that I experienced? What lessons can I take with me so that the next time I can try to have an ounce of prevention instead of a pound of cure? Because sometimes that pound of cure never cure you. So that's what I'm gonna be, breaking down, and that's why I've been touching on the stuff that's happening in the media. Some people would have missed the point and think it's like, oh, this media stuff is just celebrity stuff, is celebrity gossip. But this stuff dictates relationships. It subconsciously tells people, men what to do in a relationship, women what to do in a relationship, what to tolerate, what you can expect to go through, what you're gonna have to put up with, a version of what you're gonna have to put up with. All of that, what we see, it can shape a whole lot. And so I have to be mindful and pull the lessons from it. And what you got to realize is when we have our own trials, tribulations, trauma, that stuff right there, you're not always going to be able or ready to touch on it, to deal with it. And that's when you got to just sit back and be able to process and say, don't just look at what they going through, process your own thoughts and feelings and emotions. And not everything that you process is for somebody else. Not everything that you process is to speak on. Some of the things you process is for you to prepare for what you could go through. But hey, this Tony Gasson. Keep your head up, keep going. Some people are gonna get it, some people won't, but that just comes with it, and us all one day at a time evaluating the process and seeing what we can do and how we can learn from the things that we suffer, the things that other people suffer, and realizing the heart of the matter. And so if you have been here and on my channel, the angle that I take and the work that I put in and the goal of this all of taking and looking at life and analyzing and pulling lessons to get better, then you know that these things right here, every day, what happened in the news, it's gonna be certain things that it's beyond painful, and we'll feel such an anger that we'll end up not getting a lesson for ourselves to prepare us for what's to come. And it might not even be preparation for yourself. It could be preparation for your child, because you got to help them go through that season, or your friend or your family member. So if you just take and you only look at it one way, and you only just, oh, like everything in me, of course, want to go at Sean and be like, oh, you're a monster, you this and you that. And I believe that, that what he did was monstrous. And but I'm looking at also too, like, I'm trying to grab the lesson. What did he go through? What made him like that? And how can I help young men not become like Sean Combs? But if I just take and I start to hate him and just bash him and bash him and bash him, and I don't look at people do the stuff they do because of what they went through. And the same thing with Cassie. What did she see as a child? What did she go through as a child? And those are things that we got to be able to dig a little deeper and get a lesson. And that requires us to separate from our personal experiences and personal feelings because the type of capital punishment I put somebody through for what Sean Combs did, it wouldn't benefit anybody. And so I have to step outside of that and say, okay, how can I help my nieces that's 18 and 21? How can I help them see if they meet a man with power that's artists and pursuing careers? How can I help them see the red flags, keep enough distance, keep enough awareness, and have exit strategies and exit plans versus just saying, hey, you know, if I go through this, I'm just a complete victim and I have no power and I never get a chance to make a decision because that's the way that everybody is painting it. So I don't even have to prepare. I don't even have to be ready for nothing like that because I'll just be able to be seen as the victim and none of it will be, I will have no responsibility in the situation. And that's the wrong approach to take. But it's a lot of people, you know, when we going through some things or we done been through some things, it's like we'll want somebody to feel it, what we wish our person that put us through went through. And not everybody tell their whole story. And not everybody can say everything they know. And that's where I think a lot of times things get lost in translation when we having these type of conversations and it become men versus women, and it seems like, you know, sometimes women versus women, sometimes men versus men, versus us taking and saying, okay, let me get this lesson for me and mine and be able to look at it from both angles. And what would Christ say? What would Christ do? And how can I learn from this? So, hey, keep your head up. It's gonna be this thing, you know, what we going through. We seen the situation with Shannon Sharp, then you seen the guy DDG and Haley, and then Sean Combs and Cassie. It's gonna be a lot more examples probably that come out that is shaping everyday relationships that we're gonna have to be able to take and analyze and learn from without, you know, throwing the stones. But hey, this Tony Gasson. God bless you. We'll talk soon.